Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar by Phrase. My name is Klara Hesmankova. I'm on the marketing team at Phrase, and it's my pleasure to see so many of you joining us today as we introduce to you the all-new Phrase Language AI. And when I say we, I actually mean our two expert speakers, whom I have the pleasure of introducing. We have Henry Fibukorn, our Senior Product Manager, and we have Danish Jarek, our Product Marketing Manager. And together, they will walk us through the Phrases journey with AI, how it started and how it's going, as well as, of course, introduce the new Phrase Language AI and how things will work with the API access. At the end of the session, we'll reserve some time to address your questions, so please submit them via Slido as we go. And now over to you, Dan. Take it away.
Thank you, Klara. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on Phrase Language AI. I'm really excited to be joining you from Prague, which is wonderfully sunny today. I'm hoping that this will keep up in October. I'm interested to see in Slido afterwards where all of you are joining us. Today, we will be introducing to you Phrase Language AI, a new add-on for the Phrase TMS. Before I discuss the specifics of what this add-on does, I would like to give you a bit of context for artificial intelligence at Phrase. So artificial intelligence is something that we've been all hearing quite a lot about, especially this year. And it's largely owed to the good work that's being done at companies like OpenAI with their large language models like GPT. This whole talk about AI has been very disruptive, not just for the localization industry, but globally. Fortunately, at Phrase, artificial intelligence isn't something that is new to us, and it isn't something that we are particularly scared of. We are, in fact, one of the first companies to see the potential in artificial intelligence and to have a track record of developing and releasing various AI-powered features and products. To give you a sense of the journey that we've taken at Phrase, we can start at the beginning, which is around 2017, where MemSource, the previous name of Phrase, started its own dedicated artificial intelligence team. Our AI team has been responsible for helping develop and deliver new AI-powered features into our products ever since then. In 2018, it secured its first patent for AI-detected non-translatables. In 2019, they helped release one of the first MT quality estimation features together with automated linguist selection in the TMS. In 2020, they helped us release MT Auto Select. In 2021, we released our MT data cleaning pipeline. In 2022, we released Phrase NextMT, our own internally developed machine translation engine. Now, 2023 is going to be probably the best year yet, as we have a few substantial changes that we've made to a product and a few great releases. These can all be summarized with Phrase Language AI, which is our new add-on, which we are releasing as a part of this release, which essentially takes all of our existing features and presents them in a new package. Many of you might be familiar with our previous offering, Phrase Translate. Phrase Language AI is the next step. As a part of this release, we've made a few changes to existing features, but we've also done something quite important, which is change the way that you can experience it. Previously, Phrase Language AI was only available in Phrase TMS. Everything now changes with the release of our API for Phrase Language AI, which allows you to see the benefits and use them outside of the TMS. One important AI release I should also mention is Phrase Custom AI, which is a completely new platform we are releasing, which allows for the full customization of machine translation engines and helps you with the full process all the way from data preparation to data evaluation of your own trained engine. Unfortunately, this is quite a big topic and we won't be discussing in detail today. If you're interested in Phrase Custom AI, be sure to join us for a webinar tomorrow, which is entirely dedicated to this release. So on the topic of Phrase Language AI, Phrase Language AI is an optional add-on for the Phrase TMS, which helps bring you the best of machine translation, artificial intelligence for your localization workflows. Many of you might be familiar with its core features, which were previously known as Phrase Translate. One of the reasons why we've changed the name is because we felt that Phrase Language AI both better represents the reality of what the product is currently and our ambitions for its future development. Phrase Language AI includes a few core features, such as our fully managed engines, Phrase NextMT, MT Auto Select, MT Glossaries, MT Quality Estimation, and our new API access. Now, if any of these terms seem unfamiliar to you, don't worry, I will be explaining what all of them are and how they can benefit you in your localization workflows. So we will start off with the fully managed engines. Fully managed engines are engines that we pre-configure for you and make them available to all of our users without any of the hassle. In Phrase Language AI, you have a selection of 7 fully managed engines, which includes leading providers such as Amazon, Microsoft, Google, DeepL, Rosetta, and Tencent. When we say fully managed, we mean we take on all of the hassle and provide you only with the benefits that these engines can provide. We take care of all of the quality testing. So when considering new engines to add to our offering, we always make sure that they can contribute some real value to our customers, whether it's in the quality of translations or in the breadth of language coverage that they offer. We also ensure that all of the engines that we add are enterprise ready. This means that they are compliant with all the expectations of legal and security that our customers might have. An important thing for the end user is that we take out all the hassle of setting up and using these engines. Normally, if you wanted to use one of these engines in a TMS, you'd have to go to the provider, create your own arrangement with them, and sort of take care of all the technical hassle, bring in your API key, and then connect it into your TMS. And if you wanted to make any changes with some of the advanced features that these engines can sometimes support, you'd usually have to do it outside of the TMS with the provider. In the Phrase TMS with the Phrase Language AI add-on, using these engines is as simple as toggling them on and off in the interface. One important thing is that we also take care of the payment. Previously, if you had multiple arrangements with different providers, you'd have to have payments set up with each of them and track your character count. With the Phrase Language AI add-on, for a flat monthly fee, you get access to all these engines with one contract. You also don't have to worry about your MT character spend because the add-on is designed to be functionally limited for post-editing purposes. Now, if you see the list of these 7 engines and you might think that one of your favorite engines is missing, you don't have to worry because besides fully managed engines, we also support so-called manually managed engines. These are engines which you can add via API key. And we support quite a few manually managed engines, and we're excited that as a part of this release, we've also added support for a much requested engine, ModernMT. Now, ModernMT is a really powerful engine with a lot of great adaptive functionality and also broad language coverage. And we're really excited to be able to enable access for our users with this release. Now, speaking of MT engines, there's one that I would particularly like to highlight, and that's Phrase NextMT. The reason is quite simple. This is our own internally developed engine. Phrase NextMT differs from a lot of the other engines that we've seen in that it was developed with the TMS in mind. It is what we like to refer to as a TMS-ready engine. When designing this engine, our AI team really tried to make sure that all the resources that are available to linguists, to translators in the TMS are also available to this engine to ensure that it can always produce the best possible quality translations. Its key feature is its ability to adapt translation memories. So previously, if you were using MT, normally you would have to compete between MT, your machine translation, and your TMs, your translation memories. This would be normally not a problem if you had a perfect TM, because you could automatically use that. But in cases where you had only a partial match, your MT engine would essentially have to start from scratch. With Phrase NextMT, what you can do is adapt these partial matches by providing them to Phrase NextMT, and then it will essentially adapt them to create your desired output. We found that the translation memory adaptation feature can help improve the quality of MT output by up to 50%. And it's particularly great for organizations that have accumulated large translation memories that they can leverage for this engine. Besides translation memory adaptation, Phrase NextMT also supports a few things which are definitely appreciated by our users, such as advanced glossary support. So a lot of engines already do support the ability to use glossaries to ensure that your preferred terminology is always applied. With Phrase NextMT, we ensure that these are not done via simple search and replace, but they are always correctly grammatically inflected to make sure that they always fit the sentence where you're putting them in. Besides this, we also have support for advanced tag placement. So a lot of the text that is being translated in the Phrase TMS is often either highly formatted with various formatting tags that, for example, underline or italicize the text, or they have placeholder tags. Now, many engines struggle with these tags, and they often either misplace them or drop them completely. Phrase NextMT is designed to ensure that these are always preserved and applied to the correct place in the output. Now, for Phrase NextMT, one of the things we should mention are the language pairs. So with this release, we're proud to have added 2 new language pairs, English-Swedish and English to Japanese in both directions, which brings us up to a total of 10. All of the language pairs that you can see on the right-hand side are available in both directions. Now, cumulatively, all of these can now cover approximately a little over 50% of all of the content that is handled in the Phrase TMS. If, for whatever reason, you don't see your preferred language pair, then you don't have to worry. We're always thinking about the possibility of having new language pairs. And in the case that we don't do this very quickly, you still have the option to use the other fully managed engines which come with Phrase language AI, which cumulatively, I think, can cover something over 800 different language pairs. So on the topic of all of the fully managed engines, some of you might be wondering, how can you use multiple engines? Normally, you would just be using one to translate a specific bit of content. Well, with Phrase Language AI, we have a feature known as MT Auto-Select, which can work with a large number of engines and recommend the best suitable one for any given bit of content. The best way to explain this is probably via an example. So the way it works is you would create a profile with with a selection of engines which you would like to use, and you do this via a simple interface where you toggle on various engines, including your own manually managed engines, and then you send your project to translation with the attached profile. MT Auto Select will automatically detect the domain of the document that you're translating. So, for example, it can distinguish if it's going to be translating a medical document or if it's going to be translating a legal document. And then, based off of real post-editing data collected in the Phrase TMS, it can recommend what it believes is the best performing engine for that document. We found in our analysis that using the best possible MT engine on average can result in a quality gain of about 20%. If you're interested more in the topic of MT quality and how different engines perform, I would recommend you take a look at some of our MT reports, which present a snapshot of the quality data that MT Auto-Select is working with every day. On the topic of quality, I would also like to mention the wonderful MT quality estimation algorithm. MT quality estimation generates a quality score for every single segment translated with machine translation Phrase language AI, and it displays these within the CAT editor, but also to the PMs on the level of the project. MT quality estimation is really great if you want to get a quick overview of how much post-editing effort will be required in a given project. You can also use it to set up workflows where you automatically bypass post-editing on segments with a perfect score. And you can also use this if you're a translator to quickly orientate yourself in the CAT editor to find out which segments might need a little bit more attention. Now, continuing on the topic of quality, one of the things that we always want to ensure is how to make the best possible quality translations. And one of the things that very often trips up machine translation engines are branded terms and ambiguous terms. So very often you have businesses that have to translate their own material, and this often includes branded terms. So, for example, Phrase language AI. An MT engine might be a little bit too literal with that translation, and instead of recognizing Phrase language AI as its own distinct term, it will instead translate it bit by bit. So the word phrase, the word language, and the word AI, which I'm sure that if we were translating this into German, we in the marketing department would be very unhappy with, because we always want it to be phrase language AI. So to bypass this, you can use the empty glossaries feature, which allows you to upload your preferred set of terms and then have machine translation engine apply it across all of your translations. So this is a feature that is individually supported by most MT providers today, 6 out of the 7 that we have in phrase language AI. But there is typically kind of a bit of a problem if you have a direct arrangement with each of these vendors, because if you want to update your glossary, you have to go to each provider and upload it there separately. And then if you have any changes, you have to make sure that it's done across all of the different providers. With phrase language AI, all of this terminology management is managed in one place in phrase language AI. So you're able to upload your own terminology file and see it immediately applied across all of the different engines. In our analysis, we found that the correct use of empty glossaries can reduce the terminology error rates by up to 80%. So the correct use of glossaries can really help you reduce the amount of post-editing that you might have to do on your content. Now, the last thing I would like to briefly touch on technically isn't a part of phrase language AI, but it integrates closely with it. And that is our new MT customization feature, Phrase Custom AI. Phrase Custom AI is something that we've just released, and it is an environment that allows for the full training of machine translation engines. MT customization is normally a process that takes a lot of effort and a lot of know-how, but with Phrase Custom AI, we've really reduced the threshold required to have your own engine. With Phrase Custom AI, you're able to directly import your translation memories from the Phrase TMS and use a series of AI filters to clean them and make them suitable for training your own custom engine. Within this interface, with a few clicks, you can now make your own customized instance of Phrase NextMT, and you can additionally benefit from a number of advanced MT evaluation metrics to be able to measure its performance and then retrain your engine if necessary. So I think this covers a lot of the great AI features that we support for machine translation in Phrase, but a lot of the things that we've talked about so far have been restricted largely to the TMS environment. With this release, all that changes as we've added API access to Phrase Language AI. And to tell you a little bit more about that, I'd like to invite Henry to tell you more. Hi, Henry.
Hi, Dan. Thank you very much. I'm super thrilled to be here today, joining from Berlin, Germany. And I couldn't be more excited to tell you more about our solution, how you can access machine translation via API. Now, before we start and look at the benefits and what we're actually going to offer to you, here are some of the problems our customers face. This is some of the feedback we received from existing customers and some of the pain points they face. So if you want to focus on the right-hand side of that slide, you will find that often the localization teams struggle to manage several third-party vendors to get access to machine translation. Furthermore, it's hard for them to stay in control of translations because there are translations being done by other departments. Sometimes employees even go out to the open internet with no company control on quality and the connected concerns and risks of data leakage and IP risks. And last but not least, the quality of translations varies a lot even across the language pairs by using such a variety of solutions. So there is a clear demand for a solution that can handle large volumes of translation, which are quick and affordable, under a single trusted vendor like Phrase. As you know, we offer GDPR compliance and the privacy is ISO certified. Now you can get it all out of one hand. And yeah, last but not least, it also allows you to extend localization access within your organization. So let me tell you more about our solution. Our solution features a file-based translation covering 13 file types, including the most important ones. And as already mentioned, you get access to machine translation of all the leading providers covering 7 fully managed engines: Amazon, Google, DeepL, Microsoft, Rosetta, Tencent, and Phrase NextMT as already pointed out. So you will also have access to Phrase NextMT via the API. We cover a large amount of different language pairs, more than 800 language pairs covered here. And the best is you will always get the optimal machine translation quality for your content type. So Phrase is using AI and a data-driven auto-select algorithm to select the right engine for your language pair and the domain based on real machine translation performance data. And in terms of benefits, that means the following. Benefits. So now finally, you can safely extend access to localization within your organization. This is the low-touch approach you've been looking for. You don't need to go through Phrase TMS to use this. You can have a really low-touch, light technical implementation using our API and then provide this access to colleagues within your organization while you stay in control of the quality. You can finally process large volumes of machine translation. And I get to the use cases on one of the next slides. And you have, as mentioned already, the optimal quality because, as mentioned, on average, you will reach up to 20% better quality choosing the right engine between the leading market translation engines compared to just going through one specific engine, like, for example, Google Translate. And as a result, you can actually address content you could previously not localize because the content didn't qualify for machine translation. It would have been just too expensive, or the quality would not have been good enough. Now, if you're interested in that, let me tell you how it works. So as a first step, there is authentication. So the good news here is that you can use your existing Phrase credentials. We also support OpenAI standards. Then as a second step, you can just post a file. So you create a translation request to us via multi-part form data request, and you can state the translation. It can be fetched utilizing the UID, returning a response via a metadata endpoint. And the good news here is you can request one-to-one translation, let's say English to Spanish or German to Spanish or Czech, or you can translate 1-to-N translations in one job. So you can actually have one translation request and translate several language pairs at once. And then as a next step, you get notified. So if you provide us with the callback URL, we will notify you when the translation is ready. And then as the next step, very simply, you get the translation either as part of the metadata or via a download, that is application octet stream file to get the download. So as you can see, it is a very simple approach here, very easy for you to implement. And last but not least, let me talk a little bit about the use cases. So there's a big variety of use cases coming from marketing documents over service manuals, or help your legal department to get legal documents translated. Or for example, if you are an e-commerce company and you want to make sure that the conversion of your products increases, then of course it's best to get the titles and the descriptions of your products been translated. Often this is not possible because it would be too costly. So you can of course do this via our API, or you can even take it a step further. And of course your customers would be interested in understanding how good those products are. So you may have references and feedback on those products. You can also of course translate those references via our API. So user-generated content is also part of it. So we have a lot of customers who have been waiting for this quite long. And now, how can you get started? So that's super simple. So API access is available for organizations with Phrase Language AI in Team Edition and higher. And you can just book a demo with our salespeople. We have a landing page up there. Here's the URL. There's also the QR code. Just go through that language page, hit the book a demo button, and our sales team will get in touch with you and will actually demo again the capabilities of this to you, and then give you access to the implementation instructions as soon as we can. And that actually concludes my presentation, and we're going to open it up for questions. I'm actually handing back to Clara, who will tell you what's next in our webinar series. The last thing I'm going to say is we'll have a little poll because we're interested on how you find that product. What is your feedback? I'm the responsible product manager for this, so we continue to develop this. So every feedback is highly appreciated. Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Henry. And thank you, Dan, as well, for the presentation. This was great. And now that you heard about Phrase Language AI and the API access, as Henry mentioned, we are very interested to hear your feedback. So please go to Slido. I've launched a new poll. You can let us know there. We're very excited to hear and see what you submit. Okay, so one last slide before we move to the Q&A. I would love to invite you to 2 more webinars in this webinar series. One is happening tomorrow and the last one on Friday at the same time as this one. And tomorrow we will dive into more detail about the new Phrase Custom AI. And on Friday, we'll look into what's new with Phrase Orchestrator, the go-to automation solution. So go ahead and sign up if you haven't already. And again, I will pass the link to register to the chat. There you go. And now we are ready for the Q&A. So I'll go to Slido, I will refresh, and let's see what we have.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for all the great questions we've been getting in. We tried to reply to some of them directly, so you might have already gotten an answer from us. If we don't get to your question in this webinar, then we will be sure to follow up afterwards. So I guess to start off with, we'll start with a question from Lynn. For Phrase NextMT, I see Spanish and French is listed. Does it account for variations like Latin American Spanish or French Canadian, for example? So I think we've gotten a few questions about Phrase NextMT and locale. I'm sorry to say that currently we do not support locales in Phrase NextMT, but this is something that we are still very much looking into. One of the things that I can maybe tease for tomorrow's webinar is that a potential solution for this might be Phrase Custom AI, which allows for the customization of Phrase NextMT. So if you have a lot of data that relates to a lot of translation memories from these locales, then you can use that to create your own locale-friendly variant of Phrase NextMT. Great. Next question from Michelle. How does MT auto-select know about the best performing engine if you include custom models in the profile? So custom models are supported by MT auto-select. And the answer is that at first, MT auto-select doesn't know. MT auto-select will eventually learn on the basis of your MT engine being used. And based off of the post-editing it receives, it will then be able to judge its performance, but it might take a little bit of time. The next question from Lan AI. Is my current Phrase Translate subscription converted to Phrase Language AI? Because at this time, I only see Phrase Translate still. So as a part of this release, we've automatically converted everyone to a Phrase Language AI subscription. This involves absolutely no change on your part in the billing. I'm sorry if you still see the UI as a Phrase Translate. I think that should be a technical error. I believe that that's been deployed for everyone. If this issue persists for you, please do contact our support team, and I'm sure they'll be able to quickly help. So the next question from Christina is about locales and the use of Phrase NextMT with glossaries. So as mentioned, Phrase NextMT does not currently support locales. However, I believe we do support this for other engines. So if you would like to use the locales for engines, this should be possible with other engines that support it. Next question from Alyssa. What does legal and security evaluation entail in fully managed engines? So whenever we've over the years considered a number of engines which we to add to our portfolio of fully managed engines, and every time before we make this decision, we go through a series of steps to make sure that it's compliant with our standards. So we go through a rigorous quality testing where our AI team tracks the performance of these engines and makes sure that there is a real case, that there's real value to be added there. Once this is done, we then evaluate the engine based off of some legal criteria. I don't want to get too much into the details. We also do a security test to make sure that our customers' data is always secure. There's the second part of the question: how is the data handled? Is it used to train the models? So so all the data that you have in the Phrase TMS is your data, and we don't use any of it to train any of our engines. So, for example, Phrase NextMT was not trained at all with customer data. A question from Eric: is Finnish available in language pairs for NextMT, the glossary feature? I'm sorry to say that Finnish is not yet one of the languages that we support in Phrase NextMT, but you can, of course, translate in Finnish in the Phrase language AI add-on by using one of the other fully managed engines. So next up, a question from Michelle. This is about the API. I think, yes, so does it support basic segmentation of the file through custom file filters or only predefined formats? So I believe we've already answered this question directly. So I don't know if this is visible to others, but Phrase Language AI currently supports file-based translations in a number of formats. I'm not gonna read all of them out, but you will find this, I believe, listed in our Help Center documentation as well. Another great question from Michelle. Does the new feature to build custom models, that has a separate product? Yes, so Phrase Custom AI is a completely new environment that we have just launched, and it is separate from Phrase Language AI, although it integrates very closely with it. So the best benefit is by using both of these products. The second part of your question mentions the early access. So we did have some closed beta testing before we went live with this product. I'm sorry if we didn't select you for this, but it is very much possible to get access to this product now. We will be talking a little bit more about that at tomorrow's webinar. Are we going to share the recording of this webinar? I guess the question.
Yes, happy to jump in here. Yes, we will share the recording, and actually we will be sending out an email next week after the whole series is over. So we will include all of the recordings and share it with you. So please be patient with us and expect the email to arrive to your inboxes next week.
Great.
Thank you for the question.
So do we have API documentation that we can access? I guess this would be a great question for you, Henry. How is our API documentation?
Yes, that's fully available. So once you had the demo, we will give you access to the link, and you can download the documentation, the detailed documentation, straight from our Help Center page.
Wonderful. So the next question: when multiple engines are used, how is consistency ensured? We found that mixing empty engines can be confusing for post editors, since similar source segments can be translated differently in the same document. So from a technical perspective, they shouldn't be mixed, because MT autoselect works on the level of the document rather than on the level of the segment. So whenever you open up a document, all of those segments should be translated with the same engine. Great. So we still have a few more questions coming in. Yeah, so the language pair slide seems to indicate that only UK English is supported, not US English. Is your impression correct? So on the slide that we show the language pairs, we did show national flags next to some of the languages. This is purely illustrative. The choice of the British flag over the American one is somewhat arbitrary. We support English as a language. Yeah, so hopefully that answers your question. The next question is, what is the monthly character limit with Phrase NextMT? So with Phrase NextMT is available within the Phrase language AI add-on. And Phrase language AI is available for a flat monthly fee determined by the number of PMs you have, or custom pricing for enterprise customers, where the volume for all of the engines that you have is defined to be essentially functionally unlimited for post-editing. So as long as a majority of your content in the TMS is being processed, post-edited by human linguists, you don't really have to worry about the character limit. We do have some internal limits to kind of detect cases of raw machine translation within the TMS, but we find that the vast majority of our users don't come close to approaching this limit as long as they're using it for post-editing. Great. So I think this would be a good opportunity for us to maybe share some of the results from the polls that we've had, and we can have another look into the Q&A if there's any questions afterwards.
Sure, absolutely. So let me go to polls and let's see. Let's start with the first one, where people were connecting from. It is great to see a variety. Many people joining from Germany and France, but also from the US, San Francisco, Oklahoma, Dallas, I can see, and also South Africa and other European countries, Poland, Denmark, France, and Italy as well. So thank you so much for tuning in from all those places. And let's also see what you said about your first impressions. You have given us some really good things to look into next. So that's great. We will look into it in more detail. And I can see that there are no more questions being populated. So either we will look into your outstanding questions after the webinar and get back to you, or please contact your customer success manager. They will always be happy to chat and provide more details, more documentation. So thank you so much. Dan and Henry, if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, no, just a big thanks to you, Clara, for the wonderful hosting, and a big thanks to all of the viewers that joined us today. It was a real pleasure to share these exciting developments with you. If you have any outstanding questions, we'll be sure to answer them after the webinar. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.